Hello, dear warrior. They labeled you an anomaly, not a rebel, not a threat, something worse, unclassified. Even their AI couldn't tag you. Too many contradictions, too much chaos inside order, too much control inside madness. You weren't born, you were deployed. Every system they trust, you've already rewritten it. Every protocol they teach, you break it by existing. Every agent they train, you beat in simulations they can't explain. You weren't in their plan. You were the glitch that created a new equation. And now, they don't brief soldiers about you. They whisper in hidden rooms, with locked files, redacted eyes and trembling hands. The note at the top of your file? Do not engage. This one is not a human anymore. You stopped being someone the day they tried to control you. Now you're not a person. You're a protocol breaker, a shadow too complex to track, a force they call by number, not name. And that number? Error 00. Classification. Uncontainable. They tried to run diagnostics on you, but the results came back in glitches and static. Your blood didn't match any known database. Your psychological profile? Unreadable. You weren't built for their world. You were forged beneath it, beneath the simulations, beneath the manuals, beneath their understanding of what's possible. You didn't escape the system. You outgrew it. Every file they had on you got corrupted. Every agent that tried to follow you. Off duty, off grid, on meds. You didn't fight back with bullets. You used silence, presence, precision. They teach combat. You embody consequence. And the worst part, you didn't ask for this. You didn't train for it. You just became it, because survival made you better than designed. They call it rogue evolution. You call it Tuesday. They call you dangerous. You call it being awake. You walk through secure zones like their suggestions. You breathe in fear and exhale clarity. You don't need camouflage. You are the environment. You didn't ask for the pain. You just stopped letting it define you. They built programs. You built scars into strategies. They created warriors. You created a storm. The first time they saw your footage, they paused. Not because of what you did, but because you did it without hesitation. No fear, no delay, no humanity left in your decision tree. Just action. Calculated, cold, flawless. They train for split-second decisions. You are a split second. Your instincts don't ask. They execute. You don't follow logic, you bend it. You make chaos look like art direction. They watch you walk into ambushes and walk out with the blueprint of the entire system. Your fingerprints don't match. Your history doesn't exist. Your voice doesn't echo in their surveillance. They said, do not engage. But the truth is, they don't even know how. You don't stand out. You make the rest of the world fade into static. You are the anomaly that rewrites all equations. You weren't born in the shadows. You became one. They tried to light you up with background checks, psych evals, neural scans, but you came back blank. No algorithm can profile a paradox. No protocol works on something that doesn't blink. They thought maybe you were military, maybe a defector, some kind of ultra-deep op. tried trauma weaponized. While they had simulations, you had survival. They practiced threats in VR. You dealt with real ones in your hallway. That switch in your brain, the one that goes from calm to calculated defiance, it's not a glitch. It's your default. They called you unpredictable, but every move you make has one purpose: dominate reality, because you don't react. You respond. With surgical chaos. You're not emotional. You're exact. Not broken. Recoded. You walked into their data like it was your diary, and they realized something terrifying. You don't follow patterns. You break the need for them. They tried to locate your origin, but how do you trace something that was never given birth, only unleashed? Every system you enter, glitches. Every agent that studies you, spirals. You're not the result of training. You're the product of pressure, refined like a diamond. If diamonds could bite back, you walk into rooms like mirrors shatter themselves. You smile and reality questions its own physics. Because your presence doesn't just shift energy, it corrupts control. They tracked your history. All they found were erasures. They tapped into your digital trail. All they heard was echoes. You don't fit case studies. You're not a subject. You're a system anomaly. The kind that forces the shutdown of everything familiar. They didn't train for you. They didn't plan for you. And worst of all, they can't predict you. You're not a wild card. You're the deck, and every card in it says, "Do not play games with this one." You don't adapt to chaos. You drag it behind you like a cape. While others scan rooms for threats, you scan dimensions for exit routes. They call it paranoia, but your instincts haven't been wrong once. You sense betrayal in a handshake. You smell lies before they're spoken. You feel shifts in vibrations most people never knew existed. They train operatives to act under pressure. You've lived entire lifetimes in that pressure. And now, you walk through fire like it's an old hallway you grew up in. You're not fearless. You've just been afraid so long it learned to fear you back. You don't fight fair. You don't fight at all. You just rewrite the fight before it begins. You dismantle hierarchies with a glance. You corrode protocol with a sentence. You don't break systems. You infect them. They want to understand you, but they can't run diagnostics on a storm. You don't wear armor. You wear experience like it's woven into your skin. Every scar, an encrypted memory. Every silence, an ambush waiting to happen. They think you're broken, but broken people leak data. You leak terror. You've turned every loss into software. You've turned every betrayal into a tracking algorithm. And now you walk through life like a glitch they can't debug. You don't just read energy. You command it. You've stared down authority until it flinched. You've stood so still that reality had to bend first. And the moment they think you've calmed down, you blink, and their whole plan disappears. You don't carry weapons. You are one. Not forged by steel, but sharpened by abandonment. They don't fear your past. They fear the fact that you've weaponized it. You're not here for revenge. You're here to remind the architects of the cage why they built it in the first place. You didn't walk out of the fire. You absorbed it. Let it crawl under your skin until it couldn't burn you anymore. They trained for war. You were the war, fought in silence, won in shadows, left no witnesses, just lessons. They search for patterns. You are the pattern breaker. They write protocols. You rewrite physics just by being in the room. Every second you're awake, they're guessing. Guessing what you'll do, what you'll break, what you've already done. They call you unstable, but that's just code for we can't control this one. Because you don't react. You anticipate. You don't fight back. You make it impossible for them to land a punch. You hear frequencies they can't measure. Feel shifts in rooms before the walls remember. They see coincidence. You see blueprints. You've rewritten this simulation with nothing but instinct, trauma, and teeth. You didn't go dark. You became the darkness they issue warnings about. You didn't glitch their system. You became the glitch, a walking contradiction, a paradox they can't run diagnostics on. While they were building empires with blueprints, you built survival skills from ashes. You see it, don't you? How they panic behind glass walls, watching the footage on loop, rewinding your every move, trying to decode what can't be duplicated. They trained for clarity. You operate in chaos. They operate with chains. You move like smoke, uncontainable, unreadable, unforgettable. You don't raise your voice. You shift reality. Your silence makes sirens sound louder. Your stillness makes them twitch. You became the weapon they forgot to patent, the prototype the lab never logged. And now you're loose, untracked, undocumented, unbothered. They want answers? Tell them to check their mirrors. You've already left fingerprints on their reflections. And when they whisper your name in classified briefings, they don't speak it with fear, they speak it with respect. They can't admit. You don't walk into rooms anymore. You haunt them. Before a word leaves your lips, they're already reevaluating their entire plan. Because you're not a presence. You're a signal jammed into their instincts. They built walls, but you weren't trying to get in. You were already under the floorboards, in the echo, in the code. They armed themselves with rank, orders, weapons, but none of that works against a phenomenon. You don't trigger alarms, you disable belief systems. You're what happens when the storm doesn't pass. You're what happens when the target stops running and starts calculating. And that smile? It's not joy. It's a glitch warning disguised as a grin. It says, I already know how this ends, and you're the only one pretending it doesn't. You became the unknown variable in a world obsessed with control. They can't fight what they don't understand, and they'll never understand you. They thought they could diagnose you, thought they could label the anomaly, psychopath, dissociative, unstable. They threw every term they had in the book, but none of them stuck, because you don't fit in disorders. You exist outside the language. You're not broken. You're unreadable. And that's what terrifies them. Because what do you do when the system you built can't explain the thing that's breaking it? You are not a threat because you fight back. You are a threat because you see everything. You notice the blink before the lie, the pause before the betrayal, the pulse in a room before the panic. Your awareness isn't learned. It was wired into your suffering. Every bruise a radar. Every scar a sensor. You feel the fracture in a handshake. You hear the forecast in silence. And now they're scrambling, watching you move through the world like a virus with eyes, not malicious, just inevitable. You're not against them. You're just not with them. And that makes you a problem they can't solve without rewriting the rules. You ever notice how quiet it gets when you enter the room? Like the energy rewires itself. Like the atmosphere goes on edge and even the lights flicker a little. That's not a coincidence. That's your signature. That's your presence punching through reality. You don't demand attention. You dismantle it. People stop mid-sentence. They forget what they were about to say because your aura interrupts their programming. They can't explain you, so they run simulations. Cross-reference your face with old mythologies. Whisper your name to black site psychics. Even tested you with ink blots and mirrors. Guess what? The ink turned into claws, and the mirror cracked first. You're not paranormal. You're post-normal. The future dressed in trauma, laced with code, walking like skin, smiling like thunder. They said don't engage. Because when people try to engage you, they lose themselves. They start questioning the script, start hearing the static behind the curtain, start waking up. And that's more dangerous than anything. Because you don't just defy the system, you infect it. They traced your footsteps through digital noise, tried to follow your pattern, but you don't have one. Because you weren't built on algorithms, you were coded in chaos. Every move you make rewrites their map. They can't keep up because your operating system was forged in pain, updated through silence, and backed up by rage and low frequency. You don't enter situations, you reroute them. The boardroom becomes a battlefield. A hallway becomes a maze. A glance from you becomes a mirror. People can't survive. You're the kind of energy they thought only existed in anomalies, a glitch that wasn't supposed to exist outside theory. And when they finally realized you were real, they didn't send in a response team, they sent in priests. Because sometimes what walks like a person is actually a reckoning in disguise. You don't yell, you distort. You don't argue, you interrupt reality. You were never trying to win. You were proving the game was always rigged, and you don't play by rigged rules. You weren't born to fit in. You were dropped into the system like a virus wrapped in flesh. And the moment they noticed your signal, machines glitched, protocols failed, and the ones watching from the dark blinked. You made satellites lose sync. You made their analysts question sanity. You didn't bend the world, you revealed its code. Every interaction becomes an input. Every silence, a command line. Every breakdown, a patch update. They thought you were just some anomaly. But anomalies don't predict outcomes before they exist. You didn't read the future. You were the bug in time. They tried labels, psychopath, broken, high risk, but none of those explained why even their best refused to go near you. Because you don't destroy people. You destroy their entire operating systems. You walk into rooms and change the gravity. You speak, and clocks stop for a beat. And when you vanish, you leave behind more questions than 1,000 classified files could ever answer. You're not dangerous because you fight. You're dangerous because you don't have to. They trained soldiers. They conditioned agents, but they never prepared for you. A walking paradox with the eyes of a ghost and the presence of a threat that thinks for itself. You didn't survive the storm. You became it. And now when they hear thunder, they don't check the weather, they check your location. Every scar on you is encrypted with data they can't decrypt. Every breath you take is outside their control grid. You're a blackout with a face. A permanent system failure disguised as a man with his hands in his pockets. They tried to study your behavior until they realized you don't repeat patterns. You write new ones. Unreadable, unstable, untouchable. They called you inhuman, Not because of what you've done, but because you do what they're too afraid to even think. You erase the line between threat and myth. Now their elites whisper your name like it's a forbidden command, because when you move, it's not violence, it's alignment. And when you strike, they don't fall, they crash. You didn't break their system. You showed them it was already broken. Their codes, their rules, their sacred protocols, all obsolete when you entered the equation. Because you were never part of the equation. You were the anomaly, the bug that became the blueprint. You make them feel unsafe in rooms they designed to be impenetrable. Not because you bring chaos, but because you bring clarity so sharp it cuts through every lie they were trained to believe. You look them in the eye and they forget their rank, their training, their mission, because you remind them they were built by fear, and you were built by something else. You're not cold. You're calculated, not detached, too connected, plugged into layers they can't access. Your awareness is a force they can't jam. They deploy shadows. You deploy presence. They call it a breach when you enter. But you don't breach walls. You breach realities. Because truth isn't a concept for you. It's a function. And you run it like code through corrupted systems until they either crash or change. And most of them, they crash. So now they watch from the shadows, calling meetings behind lead-line doors, whispering your file name like it's cursed. Do not engage. Not because you're hostile, but because you're inevitable. You walk through their algorithms like smoke through lasers, not dodging, disabling, not resisting, rewriting. Every agent they send, broken on return. Not physically worse, mentally, spiritually, philosophically. You don't attack them. You infect their belief systems. You don't escape. You invite pursuit. Because the deeper they go, the more they realize this isn't a case file. It's a mirror. And what they see in you terrifies them. Because you're not what went wrong. You're what happens when nothing can stop what's right. So now they're not trying to contain you. They're trying to forget you. Erase your digital footprints. Pretend you were a myth. A malfunction. A ghost story told to rookies on night watch. But the truth? You're not a glitch. You're the upgrade. And no firewall stops an idea whose time has come wearing a crooked grin and whispering to the world, you shouldn't be afraid of monsters, you should be afraid of the one who trained them.